What makes a game memorable? Well, now that I've asked this broad question, there's a lot of things that make a game memorable. Good voice acting is one of those things. But by this point, good voice acting is a standard for AAA games or anything from a big name company. Instead, a niche that is being overlooked to some degree is unique voice acting. Today we're going to look at just that. Unique voice acting featuring the Maven from Path of Exile. Hello and welcome. If you don't know what Diablo 2 is, Path of Exile, it's a free-to-play action role-playing game released back in 2013 by Grinding Gear Games. Our benevolent, bold god, Chris Wilson, along with his dedicated team, have strived to up their game with every passing year, reaching peak numbers as of late with the release of Ritual League. Now, we're not going to analyze the game, that's a whole separate video that's been boiling in my archives. There is one thing in particular which has piqued the interest and kinks of many Path of Exile players, the Maven. The Maven is a new boss character introduced in Ritual League along with many mechanics, and what makes her so unique in comparison to previous bosses that we've seen is her behavior. Pesky bosses in the past have had the incentive to trail us around, take the Shaper or the Conquerors as examples. But Maven as an entity seems outside our realm of normality. Not only that, but her speech pattern is strange, to say the least.
Joy!
Elizabeth Easter's performance, I'm sorry for butchering your name, her performance is astounding in that she managed to convey such emotions with just a couple words per sentence. The Maven's speech pattern is simple yet leaves a lot of questions behind. Who is she? Why is she talking as if she had a disorder?
Take. Call. Carnage. Carnage. Best. Prove.
Jokes aside, the uniqueness and mystery behind her character make her, at least in my opinion, much more memorable than a multitude of characters we've seen throughout Rayclass history. And that's an important thing. Something was done right if it drew in such a larger fanbase. More so than that, in contrast with the Maven's simplicity, we have the elaborate, brilliant monologues of the Envoy. I'm genuinely more overjoyed to see him and let him talk in the background than to see a sacred grove spawn, said no one ever. Obviously, it gets boring after doing an insane amount of maps and hearing both of them just talking again and again. But from an average point of view, these two characters blend in perfectly and complete the feel of the Ritual League.
Murder each other.
Not now, Maven. The real problem with unique voice acting is doing it right. If it isn't done properly, it can feel distasteful, of poor quality or simply repulsive. And if you overdo it, it's going to grow stale as well. There's a fine balance which the Maven has nailed perfectly. I don't want to humor the Maven fetishists who are probably frothing at the mouth right now, but even her aspect is uniquely designed and memorable. If I'm going to play a game with forgettable characters, especially one that entails a lot of grinding and that can get boring fast, I'm going to lose interest much faster. Now, let's take an actual look at her speech pattern and what does the Maven usually say. She's a sadistic one, I'll give you that much.
Contest until death.
She's also pretty bored, so she enjoys us killing things, or getting killed by things. Besides narrating what takes place in a simplistic yet brutal manner, there is yet another cool part about her voice lines. During the fights, whenever she says a certain word, something happens to either the player or the boss.
Strength.
Such audio indicators for mechanics are a brilliant implementation, which is rarely seen. In Path of Exile, it is often that you can get blasted to shreds from across the screen, and having at least a sound indication of what will transpire can help a lot. I'm having so much fun playing around with her lines.
Oh, exalted.
I swear that boss killing now with the Maven is many times more fun, and it's a thing I'm looking forward to in any map witnessed by her. Unless it's one of those times when she spends the healing ability and you're just sitting there 10 minutes later, still not having finished the fight. But now a more general question would be, can any game employ unique, memorable voice acting? Depends on the setting, but I'd have to say that not all of the games have this freedom. Hell, some games don't even have voice acting. Looking at you, visual novels. The first things to look for in acting should be quality and immersion. After all, uniqueness is not determined by the actor, but rather by the script that he needs to follow. The one who made the concept for that certain character has the say if the character is going to sound like a generic ass dude or not. When you listen to someone talking in real life, you are not expecting them to sound weird by any means. If anything, unusual voices of any nature are more ridiculed than admired.
Ongeloof is eigenlijk het juiste woord.
Excuseer.
Ongeloof is eigenlijk het juiste woord dat Rijke hier hanteert. Omdat dat was bij mij dus ook mijn eerste gewaarwording dat ik dacht dat kan niet.
That's why unique voice acting can be either a hit or a miss, and it's usually safer to not take that risk. There is no surefire formula of how to make a character sound perfect. Take reading books as the perfect example. The reader gives each character a different voice in their mind. Until there's an official movie done after the books, there's no telling what the author envisioned. And even then, the author might not be perfectly happy with a casting choice. That's the big difference between physical acting and voice acting. If you're a live actor, your main goal is to physically portray that character. The voice matters little in most cases. That's why to me, voice acting is as much of an art, because you have more freedom to nail an animated character just the way the author envisioned.
Great pleasure.
Shut up, Maven. There is just one commentary I'd like to make on the Maven's presence. Path of Exile is a min-maxing game, which means that you want to have the best gear in the game to clear all of the content easier and faster. But faster is a bad thing for Maven, even though she has short lines. You don't even need to have an insane build to kill some bosses real fast, and that either skips over some of her lines or meshes them weirdly. It's not a major problem because it is handled decently well within the game, but maybe there should be more scarcity in her lines. Also, if you ever don't feel like listening to the envoy for the billionth time, just click on him, he'll thank me later. But this has been all for today. I hope you have enjoyed this discussion, and if you did, your support by either subscribing or checking out my Patreon page would mean a lot. Until next time, stay strong.